Witamy Państwa bardzo serdecznie.
Welcome to this presentation of our financial results for Q1 2026. As you will see, the position of the company and the situation in our environment have not changed dramatically, but we are happy to share the developments of the last 3 months, the first 3 months of the year. Let me start with a wrap-up of the key facts. Our revenue grew 12.5%. Our EBITDA margin also increased. The net profit also grew, and so did adjusted EBITDA margin. As you can see, the EBITDA margin is growing faster than our revenue. Why? We'll try to address that during the presentation. Wojtek will share more details. Let's move on with the key facts of the first quarter of 2026. As you probably know, one of the key principles we follow is diversification by sector and by geography. Our diversification continues. One of the ways to diversify is acquisitions. In Q1 2026, we acquired ENG Consulting, a German company which has been in business for more than 30 years. ENG specializes in some niche technologies and in public procurement. And we have great expectations of both business segments of ENG Consulting. AI, you probably hear a lot about AI. We have seen some impact. We are ready for AI impact. We see it across all our business segments, starting with our internal processes, which we automate with AI, to production across the board, collecting requirements, creating bids, coding, implementation, and maintenance. All is now supported by AI, improving quality and reducing the costs. We have published our new strategy for the next 3 years. This strategy is based on the pillars of our business, which are already there. This strategy does not cover anything we would not be doing yet, and we are quite successful doing all of it. But we shift the emphasis in our business because we understand that typical classical projects or other service-based sales that we started with, which account now for about 10% of our business, will be fading away in the next few years, because in each of these segments we still see growth, but we believe that quite soon, in a matter of years, we'll see growing importance of our proprietary solutions, own IP solutions, AI, as well as maintenance services based on artificial intelligence. We had a previous meeting dedicated to this strategy, so let me stop at this. Let's go to the next slide. The number of clients we serve remains quite stable. We have a group of clients who come to us, we do projects with them, they are happy, and so they come back again with new business. And we also have clients whom we serve continuously. We are quite happy to note that our team has been growing to 2,068 people at the end of Q1. The team included external consultants. And so we have external affiliates and our own workers, which means that our bench remains very, very low. And we expect it to remain as low in the future. As you can see in the graph, in the figure, our team is growing. We are very happy with that, and I think this is a very good predictor for the future. Our geographic footprint has not really changed much. The key regions remain Europe, the UK, the US. We are gradually expanding our India team based on our own resources. We are not planning at the moment to acquire any companies in India, and the biggest team is based in Central and Eastern Europe and Ukraine. Thanks to our prior acquisition in Carimus, our US team has also grown. Sebastian, would you like to talk about the business sectors?
Tak, mogę
Absolutely.
powiedzieć.
Happy to.
Generalnie
In
to,
general,
na co warto zwrócić uwagę,
what
to
I'd like to point out
AdTech,
is
MarTech. Za
the
kolejnym
ad tech and
slajdach
MarTech segment,
przedstawię
which I
Państwu
will
grupę
discuss in
strategiczną,
greater
która
detail
też
in the
wychodzi
next few slides.
z tej strony,
We
którą przedstawiłem
report
na samym początku
growth
tego
of
obszaru.
revenue in these business
Ten
segments,
slajd właściwie można by
which is quite
podsumować
decent.
dywersyfikacja. Jak
Now,
Państwo widzą,
this slide could
jesteśmy
be headed
spółką, która oferuje
diversification.
usługi
Our
do
company
szeregu
offers services
branż.
in a number of
To
sectors,
jakby, gdzie my widzimy swoją siłę, to że
and
w
we
każdym z tych obszarów
know that
budujemy
our strength lies in the
specjalistyczne
fact that in
aplikacje
each of these
wiele
business
programowe.
segments we develop a lot
Zwróćcie
of
uwagę, że
specialized
jesteśmy bardzo blisko klienta,
insight
czyli nie
and
dostarczamy tylko
expertise.
i
So we
wyłącznie
are very close to our
technologii,
clients.
ale
We are more
również
than a
dodatkowo
technology supplier.
usługi
We
domenowej.
provide
Dokładnie
domain-based
operujemy właśnie w rozwiązaniach AI,
expertise, which is
czy właśnie
packed as
produkty,
AI
które
solutions, our products
najczęściej
or
wyłaniane są
semi-finished
w
products, which
poszczególnych
emerge
poszczególnych business unitach,
in the different
proszę
business
Państwa
units.
bardzo.
More on this when I come to the next few slides. Oh, I should like to add that AdTech and MarTech will be discussed later on in the presentation, but it's a good example of our diversification, which, as a matter of fact, is spread over many quarters or years. When we establish a new vertical, we need time before it starts to provide revenue, but this is definitely the direction we are going with great success. Now, looking at our peer group, our close peers, I think we look quite good in this context. I know that the sentiment in the industry, the sentiment of investors around the industry is now negative. We'll see, maybe the trend will revert. But compared to our peers, some of them bigger, I think our company looks quite fine. Let's now move to the financial results. Wojtek, would you like to take over?
Oczywiście.
Absolutely.
Tak jak Konrad wspomniał,
Just like Konrad said
konsolidowane przychody
with the
grupy
first slide, our consolidated revenue of the group
dwa
stood
miliony
at 162 million in Q1, up 12.5% year-on-year. The revenue grew, among others, thanks to strong performance in the Industry 4.0 and manufacturing segment, in high-tech and software, automotive, e-mobility, and renewables.
Co najwyżej mogę kontynuuję to, co
So
podali przed chwilą
I
dwa
would like to
slajdy,
follow
dlatego
up
że
on what
nasza
colleagues
szeroka
said 2 slides back.
pozwala nam
Our broad
wystartować
diversification
w
helps
różnych
us
spółkach
to
i w
uh,
różnych branżach
deliver and
Drugą
grow
przewagą
across
jest
different
w trudnej sytuacji
sectors,
geopolitycznej,
companies,
która
and
wiąże plany inwestycyjne klientów,
quarter
co
after
nie
quarter. Of course, this is
ulega bardzo
curbed
w
by the
najróżniejszych
geopolitical
etapach.
tensions, and I
Na
think
drugim
we'll
slajdu
hear more on this
pytanie
later, also in
rozwinął.
the Q&A.
Jeżeli mogę, tutaj
Oh,
jest
well,
slajd,
this
który
slide
pokazuje nam
talks about
strategię w kontekście
our
przychodów
strategy
od
from the
samego jej
perspective of
początku.
revenue
Pokazaliśmy
from the start in
2021 rok, jak
2021.
wydrukowany w
As you can see at the end
wadownięci.
of 2025,
Jesteśmy w górnej
we
części
are in the upper
górnej części procentowego wzrostu
bracket
rok do
of
roku.
percentage
Tu na razie podajemy
year-on-year growth,
informacje
or
pokwartalne. Będziecie
CAGR,
widać, jak ta
and we'll see the
zielony
breakdown
słupek
by
rośnie
quarter, with the
i
green
się
bar
znajdzie
growing,
pomiędzy żółtym
I
a
think, to
czerwonym
reach the region somewhere between
wskaźnikiem.
the yellow and the red curve.
Jeżeli chodzi o EBITDA, wynik
EBITDA
za pierwszy
in
kwartał
Q1
20,
was
prawie
20
20 milionów,
million,
wzrost o
up 18.6%. The EBITDA margin was 12.4% versus 11.7% in Q1 2025. So it grew. The adjusted M&A costs, the EBITDA adjusted for M&A costs was 13.0% versus a bracket of between 11 and 14% under our strategy. So we are at the uh, upper bracket of that forward-looking guidance, and this was driven by our revenue growing faster than costs, despite the negative outcome of FX rates. We also improved our portfolio of automotive clients after some transition, more on this later, plus M&A costs in Q1. Those were much higher in 26 compared to Q1 25. Now, the impact of FX rates. As you can see, the US dollar grew by 9.5% quarter-on-quarter. The euro was quite stable, 2% down. The British pound weakened against the zloty by nearly 3.5%. The weighted average, because the currencies are also diversified, we recognize customers in different currencies, but the weighted average is about 4.5%. That's the overall impact on EBITDA or revenue. Now, the net profit of the group was 10 million, up 11% year-on-year. It was driven by an income tax increase to 3.6 million versus 1 million a year ago, when we still took advantage of the R&D tax breaks from previous years. So in Q1 26, well, the previous years, rather, in Q1 25, we used the R&D tax breaks from previous years. The tax office would grant those tax breaks at different points in time during the year, but now this is over. Now, our financial revenue rose to 1.6 million. Financial costs fell by 1.5 million, mainly 90% caused by FX rate volatility, which has impacted net results and increased our income tax payable. Regarding the P&L, there's a strong difference between the growth of revenue and the growth in costs, mainly due to the way we classify the costs of preparing offers, bids, which is described in detail in our report under the accounting policy. The increase in general management costs, those grew much faster than revenue and the cost of sales. That was driven by a number of factors. The costs of M&As in Q1 2026 versus 2025, 100,000 versus 1 million. In addition, in Q1 26, we recognize the cost of back office of Clarmus, which is 2 million zloty in Q1 2026, none in 25. And we also had, we recognized the costs of preparing bids, 1.3 million recognized under the SG&A rather than the cost of sales. So these are the three main drivers for the increase in the costs of general management and a low increase in the costs of sales. The percentages you can see here as the impact of FX rate volatility. The net profit attributable to minority shareholders. A big change here, as we describe in our report, growing in revenue incredibly in Spyrosoft solution. So if we compare these two quarters, the change really comes from separate or standalone EBITDAs impacting the net profit attributable to minority shareholders. We are very happy with
positivnych
these
wyniki
great
spółek
results, the great
związkowych.
performance of our subsidiaries.
To dziękuję i
Thank you.
oddaję głos
Over to
Sebastianowi.
Sebastian.
Tak jest.
Thank you.
Widzimy tradycyjnie
Now, as
slajd
usual, this is a
ze strukturą przychodów.
traditional
Chciałbym tylko
slide
jeszcze
with the revenue mix by
jeszcze
sector.
raz podkreślę,
I'd like to stress once again the great diversification of our group, as you can see reflected in this slide.
Rozkład pomiędzy
The
poszczególnymi business
spread
unitami jest
across the
dość
different business units is quite
Warto zaznaczyć, że w other
equal, equitable.
z 1 do 5%
Other grew
jest
from
taki
1 to
wzrost,
5% year on year,
tutaj
and that's
wzrost
because
odnotowaliśmy
for the time being,
klientów z MD
others
Consulting
include
z
MP
Stanów
Consulting and
Zjednoczonych,
Clarinus
gdzie
clients
w
because we are
procesie
still in the process of
przeprowadzania
integrating
analizy
data.
sekcyjnym
But
naszym spotkaniu
at the next quarterly meeting,
te dane zostaną
these
przekazane
numbers will be
do poszczególnych
put
sektorów.
in the different
Na
segments.
kolejnym slajdzie, jeżeli mogę
And the
poprosić,
next slide shows
to samo, tylko że w ujęciu
the same
kwotowym.
figures
W
in
większości
actual amounts.
sektorów mamy dość solidne
In most
wzrosty.
sectors, we
Spadek
reported
w
solid
mediach
growth,
jest
with a drop in
związany,
media,
mówiliśmy
and this is
kilkukrotnie,
something we
z
mentioned on a number of occasions before. That's due
efekcie
to
ze
the
strony BBC, natomiast jest to
lower
sytuacja
demand from BBC.
spodziewana.
That is something we
Natomiast
did
widzimy z
expect,
kolei bardzo dobrą
and we see great improvement in automotive.
Automotive generalnie
In general,
od lat jest
automotive
w dosyć trudnej sytuacji, ale
is
ja
still in a
wierzę, że
difficult
my
place,
wypracowaliśmy
but we
naprawdę
believe
dobrą
that we
wiedzę w
have
sektorze, w którym
developed unique
dysponujemy i w
expertise,
stanie
and our
bronić
team
się i
can
jesteśmy
defend its
oczekiwani, że
position
wypracujemy
and
kolejne solidne
acquire
wyniki.
more
Automotive
great contracts. So
wygląda
automotive is
lepiej,
looking nice,
że sytuacja
even though the
jest
market
trudna.
remains difficult.
Wspominałem też wcześniej o AdTechu.
I also mentioned AdTech and MarTech. As you can see, we have earned first revenue in this sector,
3 miliony
coming to
złotych.
close to 3 million zloty.
MD Consulting, Carimus, natomiast
Other, that's MD Consulting and Clarinus, but again,
zostaną poprzypisywane
the next report will put these numbers in the relevant sectors.
Jeżeli chodzi o
Now,
strukturę
the
geograficzną, wielkich
revenue
niespodzianek
mix by geography, nothing surprising, a drop
związany z
in the
BBC,
UK,
z kolei
that's due to
mamy
the BBC,
wzrost
and we have an increase in the
Stanów
US.
pojawił się jeszcze
Plus, we
w tej
have
liczbie geografii
a new
GCC.
geography,
Są to
GCC.
kraje Zatoki
These are the Gulf
Perskiej.
states.
Tutaj my widzimy dość
And
duże
we see
zainteresowanie,
quite a lot of
wzrost
interest
przychodów
and an
z
increase in
tego
revenue
obszaru.
in this
Wydaje
region.
się, że my na kilka kwartałów wcześniej
I think a few quarters back we said
podejmować
we
działania
want
dążące do
to
tego, żeby
take
zwiększyć
action
zarówno
to
obszar
increase our
między innymi
presence
efekt
in this segment, and now we see some results.
region dosyć
And this is a
specyficzny
rather
po
specific
ostatnich
region.
turbulacjach
We are all aware of the
w
recent
mniejsze,
turbulences
co
in
oczywiście
the
nie
region,
ulega
which are not helping,
sposób
but I'm quite
nastawiony
optimistic
do wzrostu przychodów
about
w tym obszarze.
growth in this region looking forward.
Jeżeli chodzi o
Let's talk about our
kwartałową,
outlook. What are the
po
prospects for
pierwsze,
the upcoming quarters?
sektor
Well,
publiczny,
the public sector.
ci państwo, którzy śledzą nasze
If you have been following us, you
wiedzą, że
probably
jest
know
tutaj
we
pozytywnym dla nas rozstrzygnięciem
announced
przetargu,
a positive
przez Ordnance
outcome
Survey.
of
Tam przypomnę,
a successful ordnance survey tender. In other words, we won an extension of the contract that's 55 million pounds for another couple of years, 7 years. And so Ordnance Survey is a client in the public sector,
najbardziej znana firma w
the
Wielkiej
UK's
Brytanii,
best-known
oferująca
company, which
rozwiązania mapowe, należąca w większości
is
do króla.
owned by the Crown.
Oczywiście w Wielkiej Brytanii my nadal
In the UK,
podejmujemy
we
szereg
are
działań,
still taking
żeby
action
uzyskiwać kolejne przetargi
to
publiczne,
win
ale
more
też
public tenders.
ostatnie przejęcie
But the recent acquisition that
MD Consulting
Conrad mentioned,
również
MD
pokazało
Consulting in
element
Germany,
układania
that's another
tego, że
important
wierzymy,
piece of
że
the puzzle.
Niemcy będą
We
bardzo
believe that Germany will be digitizing intensely, and we will see a lot of public sector interest. We are now in the process of tendering in several public procurement contracts ENG Consulting has a large client base, including clients in the public sector, using specific niche solutions offered by ENG Consulting. So we would like to talk to those clients, offer them to modernize the existing solutions, upgrade the solutions, but also offer the group's services. As you know, our portfolio is quite broad. So I'm really very positive, hoping for great cross-sell with MD Consulting. Then the next important contributor, oh, by the way, the public sector, I believe it will play an increasing role for our company in the coming quarters and years. Now, IP, that's the other contributor with great potential. Many clients we acquire now out there in the market are attracted by our industry expertise that we offer through our solutions, products, and semi-finished products. One interesting solution that is working fine is a system we call Antow. That's a platform to manage a production enterprise based on AI for the chemical industry, but not only. So, in brief, it combines data from the manufacturing floor with AI models, so manufacturers can optimize their processes in real time rather than exposed. With this approach, the process of generating business is going quite well for us. And in most of our business units, we now have or try to develop such solutions. So we can offer not just a service, but also a solution to the customer's business problem. As I said, our solutions are mainly based on our domain-based expertise in the different industries. Next slide. The in market, as Konrad said, we have still seen a lot of volatility, which is unfavorable. The cost of money is quite high, which impacts the pace of investments. But we have managed to respond quite successfully to this market layout, a landscape, but it's not helping, and things may change. Concerning the growth outlook, as you know, we are strongly diversified, which I stress yet again, and the growth in the group's revenue, I believe, will continue at a double-digit rate year on year. And we maintain our financial targets for 2026. Now, this slide, we have one more. This is the outlook for the different sectors in the coming quarters. The outlook looks quite good with a particularly good potential of financial services, the financial sector. Robotics is performing quite well, but also retail, e-mobility, energy, defense, AdTech, and MarTech. Well, defense is doing quite well, even though we have not yet presented any revenue in this segment because it's quite low, but we are quite well positioned with all the pieces of the puzzle in place to win big new contracts. As you will recall, we have several clients in this segment, yet, however, not up to scale. Now, I think this is a good match for the public sector, so the pipeline will definitely emerge in the future. That's all from me. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sebastian. Let's move on to the Q&As. Let's start with questions about the financials. We have questions from Przemysław Staniszewski to Wojciech. Przemek is asking about the impact of the FX rates. The weighted average, you mentioned 4.5% of impact on EBITDA. Or is it revenue? Which one? And he says some of the employee costs are in the zloty. So please clarify. What was the impact of
Oczywiście,
the
panie
FX rates?
Przemku, moja
Przemek, yes.
interpretacja
Apologies, I misspoke. The FX rates have a direct impact on revenue. And so I just took a mental shortcut when I spoke about EBITDA, but it's 4.5% impact on revenue. Thank you, Wojciech. We also have a question about the average tax rate you're expecting to pay this year and
Jeżeli
next.
chodzi o polskie
The
spółki
Polish
objęte
company,
OZE,
that's close to
w związku z
zero,
ulgą
with the R&D
dopóki ona
tax
jest,
rate, which is
to,
still in place.
cały czas celujemy
We are still
zbliżenie do zera
expecting
podatkowego. Warto
a tax rate
zarejestrować
close to
też
zero.
spółki
Whereas
zagraniczne,
our
w
foreign
zależności od
subsidiaries, well,
rozliczenia,
that depends
duże zyski
on
w poszczególnych
the
krajach pozyskujemy,
profits we
uzyskujemy
make
dzięki temu
in those
niskiej,
different
mówiąc
countries,
o stopie
but
podatkowej,
the
to
tax
niskiej
rate is on the order of
podatkowej.
20% overall on average. Thank you very much. We have a question from Marek Swanek about the increase in costs by 9% year-on-year in Spyrosoft PL, while revenue grew only 4% year-on-year. Are these salary costs?
Mm, Myślę, że jeżeli ale to w kosztach SG&A, czy w kosztach
Is it about SG&A
pracowniczych?
costs or
Nie myślę, nie wydaje mi się, że
employee
koszty
costs?
gdzieś,
I don't
jeżeli przychód
think, well,
rośnie,
wherever
to
we
koszty
see an
rosną
increase in
wolniej w
revenue,
każdym
costs
segmencie,
grow at a
gdyż w związku z tym
smaller
mamy
rate in every
płatność na
segment
niskim
because our
poziomie,
bench
to
is
mi się
so
nie
small.
wydaje, jeżeli już to
So I don't
pewnie chodzi
think,
o
well, it is
SG&A, gdzie
probably a
w
question about
trwałe
SG&A. As
porównania
I said,
związane rok do roku, gdzie mamy
year
M&A,
on year,
koszty M&A,
we have
które
M&A
rozpoznajemy
costs,
tylko i
which are
wyłącznie
recognized
w Spyrosoft
only for
SA, na poziomie
Spyrosoft
Spyrosoft SA, więc
SA.
jeżeli chodzi o te 900 tysięcy,
So
to
the
też mamy 100 tysięcy w pierwszym
900,000,
kwartale,
100,000 in
milion
Q1, 1 million
przez
in
2,6, to może
2026.
tak
And that's the numbers I
delikatnie
mentioned, but
doprecyzować.
it's not salaries.
Jeżeli pytanie dotyczy
If the
tego, czy
question is
my płacimy
whether
teraz
we are now
7%
paying
9% więcej
9%
niż
more
w
to our
2020
people
roku,
than we
tutaj się
did in
zdecydowanie
Q1
nie.
25,
Jeżeli
the
chodzi
answer is
o,
definitely
o
not.
wynagrodzenia
When
pracowników,
it
tutaj
comes to
Sebastian
salaries,
mnie wesprze,
Sebastian,
to
correct
one
me if I'm wrong, but I think they have
są
been practically stable.
Jeżeli chodzi o
Correct.
wynagrodzenia pracowników, to
Salaries
właściwie
have
nie
not
widzimy zmiany.
changed at all. Thank you. Now moving on to the strategy and your plans. A question about the outcome-based model from Jarosław. Does it not mean that you are taking over part of the risk of projects from your
oczywiście, że
clients?
to oznacza, ale
Yes,
to
of
jest
course, that is
reprezentowane
correct.
przez modele, które
But the
dzisiaj
models
stosowamy.
we use,
Choćby stare, dobre, wszystkim znane, klasyczne projekty w modelu fixed price,
even
to
the
dokładnie to
typical
samo
fixed
oznacza.
price models, are
Czyli
just
to
the
nie jest w
same.
ogóle dla nas
So it's
nowa
not
rzecz, że bierzemy
anything new
odpowiedzialność
for us. We take
finansową za
financial
inwestycje.
responsibility for
Też
what we
na
do.
pewno ten model oferujemy i
And we
będziemy
offer
tylko
this model, we'll
występować w
offer
rozwiązaniach,
this
co do
model
których jest
only
bardzo duża pewność
in those solutions where
realizowania.
we definitely
Mamy do
know we're
czynienia
going to make money.
z modelem R&D,
When it
który
comes to
realizujemy,
R&D
którym nam na
models and
pewno
projects, then we'll
przyjmuje
definitely
rozwiązania typu time and materials.
uh,
Oczywiście w takim
stay with
przypadku
time
ten jest
materials
sprawdzony,
models
wynik jest no,
because
jest wątpliwy, więc
the
tutaj
results are
musimy
uncertain.
się z tym
So the risk
rozmawiać.
must be on the
Natomiast
buyer's
takie
side.
projekty fixed
But
price
fixed
R&D
price
mamy
models,
bardzo długiego
we've been
czasu.
running those for quite a
Tutaj
long time.
zawsze ryzyko istnieje,
And there's
natomiast
always a
to
risk,
ryzyko ma
but
zawsze dwie strony, prawda? To jest zagrożenie
the risk always
przy
has a
odpowiedniej skali działania.
um,
Śmiem twierdzić, że
reverse side
i
that
przy
is
wysokim
an
poziomie wiedzy
opportunity.
marketingowej
With our
myślę, że będzie
extensive
więcej szans niż
expertise,
zagrożeń.
industrial expertise, I think we're talking about opportunities more than risks. Speaking of strategy pillars, Paweł Ewertowski is asking whether the development of your proprietary IP will require a lot of new R&D spending, followed up by increase in costs of sales and
Na pewno
marketing.
będzie wymagał nakładów
Well, it will definitely require some spending, that's for sure, and we are paying this expense. AI is helping to produce IP, makes it cheaper. And definitely, like we said in our last meeting, in the long term, we expect that our sales expenses will be higher than they are now, and that the return on investments in new sales will be reported over a longer period of time. That's the outcome of our investment in IP, outcome-based models, and other business models that AI enables. And I believe only bigger companies will stay in business. The smaller ones will be pushed out, and that's good for us. Our competition, well, the competition out there will be less numerous.
Jeszcze mam od razu pytanie doszczegółowiające o
And a follow-up question from Paweł.
Czy zarząd może
Can you
doprecyzować,
clarify
co konkretnie mieści
what
się
you
w
mean
pakiecie własnego
by
IP?
proprietary
Czy
IP?
zakłada
Are you
komercjalizację tego
expecting to
rozwiązania
commercialize those
software
solutions
service lub
in
inny
the
model
SaaS model or another model
Może
for
zacznę od drugiej części. Nie
reiterative
przewidujemy,
revenue? Let me start with the last part of the question. We are not expecting to provide SaaS solutions. This is not our plan. We've never been doing this. We're not planning to. And that is due to a number of factors. First, our company, our structure, our sales organization are not fit for such solutions. Number two, more importantly, we develop solutions for our clients. We don't want to be seen by our clients as their competitors. So what we'll be doing is tailor-made SaaS, so to speak. So we are offering a subscription model with solutions that directly respond to the needs of our clients. And the solutions are developed using AI, so we can first invest in developing the solutions and then charge fees for licensing over years. And that goes back to the previous question. Are we going to spend more on sales? Of course, we will need to change the cash flows. We'll need to invest more and do a little bit more, but the money will be earned in bigger amounts over a longer period of time. So it's tailor-made, customized SaaS, not the typical SaaS. What do we mean by IP? That's intellectual property, which means components that we offer to our clients, which enable us to sell services around it, or SaaS, which is tailor-made, or an intermediate model, PlanTops, for instance. That's a solution that encapsulates our industry expertise and uses AI to produce. And that solution is a kind of tailor-made SaaS, but we still add a lot of services around such solutions. Our typical classical products, typically understood, the answer is no, and definitely not B2C products. Thank you. And one more question about IP from Jarosław Gadomski. What are your capital expenditures for proprietary IP? Or, to put it differently, which part of IP is produced as a byproduct of the project? I don't really see why that should be a byproduct of our projects. Our projects do not generate any byproducts being IP, but the investments differ depending on the company. I don't have a number to share. Every company does it a bit differently, but these are not huge numbers. Also because AI is really making it easier to produce proprietary IP. Thank you. Now, speaking of AI, we have a number of questions on AI, starting with Grzegorz Kupeniec. Will the AI revolution take away jobs from software houses? What are the threats and the opportunities for your group in this context? Okay, no.
Jeżeli to jest pytanie typu tak lub nie,
If
to
it's a
odpowiedź
yes or
nie,
no question,
ale
the answer is no.
tutaj
But
taka prawdziwa odpowiedź
the
powinna
true
brzmieć
answer
od
should
czego
be,
zależy.
it depends.
Zależy od branży,
Depends
zależy
on
od
the
sektora,
industry, the
zależy od
sector,
klienta.
depends on the
Jest
client.
bardzo wiele rzeczy,
There are many, many
od
things
których to
that
zależy. I
impact
praca
the
zawodowa
situation.
w branży, która ewoluuje cały
Our
czas. Ta branża,
industry
ENG, zaczynając
keeps on
25 lat temu,
evolving.
wyglądała
When I
całkowicie
started in the
inaczej
business
niż
25 years ago, it was a
to
very
zaczęła
different
zmieniać
business
co
from
kilka
what
lat,
it is
znalazła
now.
już się na
So it
pierwszym miejscu.
changes every few
Natomiast zdaję
years.
sobie
It's
sprawę, że
only
jest
natural for us.
mnóstwo takiego
And I
hype'u
know
na
that there's
że
a lot of
przyszłość
hype
będzie
around
szybka,
AI,
nie ma takiego
partly
mroku,
deserved.
widać
This is a
bardzo
great
wiele rzeczy,
technology
myślę,
which
powstaje
enables
nowych
a lot,
produktów,
for
natomiast
instance, the development of new
kwestią
business
jest
models.
to,
But the
czy
question
ludzie
is,
będą w
will
stanie
companies
zmieniać
be
się
able to
wraz z
evolve as the technology
Jeżeli
evolves?
nasza firma
If
będzie w
we
stanie się
can
zmieniać
change
razem z tą
with
technologią, to
technology,
oczywiście pracy nam
then of
będziemy przybywać,
course we'll
a
only
jeżeli
have more
będziemy nie
jobs,
byli
not
w stanie
less.
tego robić,
If
to
we
pewnie
can't do that,
AI
then
nas,
AI
mówiąc
may
kolokwialnie, wykończy.
push
Natomiast jeżeli
us
chodzi
out.
o szerokie
Regarding now
spektrum
the
firm,
broad range of
to co
companies we're
chyba
talking
już
about,
zaczyna być
I
widoczne,
think
to to, że
something we
są firmy,
can
które
already
lepiej
see
idą
is that some
i
companies
są
will be
pewne
doing
modele
better than
biznesowe,
others. There are some business
których mamy
models
opracowane, a nie możemy ich
which we
wdrożyć,
have developed but
oczywiście
cannot implement because
jest
AI
jeszcze
is not
problem
yet good
z tym,
enough.
że mamy plan, co z tym
But we
zrobić.
have a plan.
Więc raczej nam pracy nie
So it's
odbierze.
not going to
Co
take
można
our
powiedzieć, że
jobs,
sztuczna
but for
inteligencja
now,
nam co najwyżej pracy dodaje.
it only adds
Więc
jobs
ciężko
for
sobie
us.
wyobrazić jakiś taki klip, z którego
It's
mielibyśmy nagle
hard
spaść, czy
to
pewnego pięknego dnia
we don't really
rzeczywistej
expect
sztuczna
that we are
inteligencja
falling down a
zastąpi nas
cliff one
więcej
day.
pracy, nagle
You wake up
spadnie jej mniej.
and
Być może
you find out that AI took away your job.
technologia. Jest
This may
bardzo
happen, of
możliwa,
course. It's
ale musi się odbyć. Też proszę zauważyć to,
unpredictable
co
technology. It's a new
ekstremalni
technology,
od
but it doesn't
dziesięcioleci
seem likely.
postępujący
And it's a typical trend
problemy
we've
stają
seen
się
over
bardziej
decades in
dochodowe
IT.
dla klienta.
Projects are
Efekt
becoming more
przepadł
accessible to
następny na
clients.
klientów i
And as that
decyzji
happens, more
możemy
clients
sięgać. Z
uh,
punktu widzenia
use
firmy
projects.
nasza
For a company
sprawia to,
like
że
us,
spora część tych
this
projektów
means
robi
that
się
many
nieco mniejsza,
projects
więc
are
mamy więcej
smaller. So we have
klientów,
more
ale
clients,
może klientów jak klientów. Mamy więcej
or we
projektów,
have more
ale te projekty
projects,
są
but
mniejsze,
they are smaller,
oczywiście z pożytkiem dla
which is
klienta,
good
bo
for the
szybciej
client
jakąś
because
wartość,
they
szybciej
get value
wdrażać
quicker, they can
informacyjnie,
implement
szybciej
or roll out
wdrażają, szybciej mogą
quicker,
też
and they
zyskiwać
can also
kolejne
raise
projekty
funds for
związane z
more
automatyzacją.
IT-related projects as a result.
Natomiast oczywiście, tak jak Sebastian
But just like Sebastian said before,
zobaczymy.
we'll
My
see.
uważamy, że nie
We
ma
believe it's not going to happen, and we have proof because we continue to grow.
Dziękuję, panie
Thank you.
profesorze. To jeszcze w kontekście AI jest pytanie od pana
We
Jarosława
have a question from
Gajewskiego.
Jarosław on
Jaki
AI.
jest budżet
What is your
wydany
budget
na
for
AI
AI
tokeny dla
tokens for
pracowników?
employees?
Jaka jest to
What
skala kosztów
is
UMDC
the
grupy?
overall cost level for the
Sebastianie, masz
group?
takie dane?
Sebastian, do you have
Mam
these
takie
numbers?
dane, ale nie przed sobą.
Yeah,
Natomiast
but
to
not
naprawdę
right away.
specyfikuje
But
się
we monitor
wykorzystanie
that very closely.
poszczególnych
We
narzędzi,
monitor the use of different tools,
podczas jakich
which employees use
możemy
which
te
tools,
dane,
and
nie mam ich teraz
we can
podręcznie,
share
ale
that,
mogę
but
je
I don't have the
ewentualnie
data
Państwu
right here. We
przedstawić.
can
Natomiast
provide
to
that data
pokazuje też,
later.
jak się
But it's
zmienił rynek.
also
Na przykład,
rising, and the
w
trend
zeszłym
is
roku
changing. Last
bardzo
year,
urządzenia OpenAI były
OpenAI solutions were more popular.
jakby była większa rzesza użytkowników,
There were more users.
jakby Claude bardziej rośnie
Now Claude is
niż
growing faster
OpenAI, a my też tutaj
rather
chcemy
than
zobaczyć,
OpenAI.
też skorzystając z
And
okazji,
let me take this opportunity and say that
podpisujemy czy budujemy
we
partnerstwa
are building
z
partnerships with
modeli LLM właśnie
AI model
tutaj OpenAI
providers such as OpenAI,
po to,
Anthropic,
żeby jakby mieć
to
z jednej strony dostęp
have access
do wcześniejszych wersji,
to
jeżeli chodzi
early
o
releases,
modeli,
if
ale z drugiej
possible,
strony
of
też,
the
żeby
different models.
razem z tymi
But also,
takie case'y właśnie z tymi dostawcami
and we've had
razem
such
wchodzić
cases,
do
in order to
różnych
work
etapów
together
procesu.
with the providers and
Też pozwolę sobie jedną
participate
uwagę
in
zgłosić,
tenders
taką
jointly.
trochę ogólną, że mamy
One
teraz
general
obecnie
comment from me.
z takim trendem, który
What we
chyba
now
można
see
nazwać
in
AI
the
maxing,
market
gdzie
is a
pokazujemy
trend
sobie
I would
środek
call
przemiłowy, że
AI
używamy AI
maxing.
jak
We
najwięcej.
use
Zależy
AI
ci
as
CIO-sy,
much as
niektórzy,
possible.
którzy
I
mają
know
cel
CIOs of big
100%
companies
wygenerowanego
who
sztucznej AI na
want
przykład.
whose target is
Albo
100% of
znam
core
osobiście
generated by AI.
prezesów firm, które
I know
mówią, kto
CEOs
u
who
mnie w firmie
say
nie będzie
if you
używał
don't
AI,
use
i zademonstruję mu,
AI,
jak to robi, to jak zwolni.
you're
Nie będę
fired,
teraz używać
and you
AI.
show me how you do it. So
Więc uważam, że
everybody's
to nie
using
jest
AI.
właściwe
I
podejście do
don't
tego
think that's the
tematu,
right approach
bo
to AI.
my raczej staramy się skupiać
We
na tym,
focus
co z tego mamy
on the
jako
outcomes
pracownicy
for our
mają, co z tego mają
employees
klienci,
and our
którzy używają
clients.
tej sztucznej inteligencji
So we use
na
AI
sens,
where it
a
makes
nie na
sense.
zasadzie takiej metody
rather
było,
than
jak ktoś tego nie użyje, to zaraz go zwolni. Oczywiście w
going
tej chwili dla większości profili, na przykład w naszej firmie, jeżeli
going
ktoś nie używa
across the board and saying if you don't use
staramy
AI,
się to stosować tam,
you're
gdzie
fired or you're not gonna get promoted. We use AI where it makes.
Sztucznej inteligencji w tym kanonie, że jeżeli
And
się nie używa, jeżeli nie wydaje
don't think that if you don't use AI, you don't invest heavily in AI, then you're wrong. If you think that,
raczej to nie jest dobry kierunek.
that's wrong.
Patrzmy na to, co ta technologia może dla nas
Let's
zrobić, ponieważ jest to
imagine what AI
bardzo
can
szybko,
do
trzeba
for us.
powiedzieć,
Because unfortunately, it's just a technology
może
like any
lepsza,
other.
bardziej
Maybe
teraz na
a little
pewno,
bit
ale to jest
better,
technologia. Ona ma swoje
more of a
racje,
fad now, but
to
it's
jest
only a
gdzie się je używa i
technology.
ma pewne
It has
korzyści,
some
pewnie nie trzeba jej używać.
applications and it doesn't make sense to use it elsewhere.
I ostatnie
Thank you.
pytanie w dziedzinie
One last
AI.
question on AI.
Czy kwantyfikowaliście
Have
państwo
you
jako
tried to
Spyrosoft pozytywność
quantify
programistów,
the
którzy
productivity
umożliwiają
of
się
programmers who use AI successfully in
Tak,
coding?
mogę na to pytanie odpowiedzieć.
Yeah,
To jest tak, że
I'll
im
take this
bardziej
question.
doświadczony
The
programista,
more
tym jego
experienced
umysł,
coders,
powiedzmy, dzięki AI-owi jest wyższy.
the better the
Staramy się
productivity
też
with
powiedzieć,
AI.
że powiedzmy
And it
rok
has
temu
evolved.
było
A year ago,
20-30%,
we were
teraz
talking
to
about
zaczyna
20,
wzrastać. To
30%.
też
Now it's
bardzo
about
zależy, tak? Bardzo
40%, but it
zależy
really depends
generalnie od przypadku,
on
od
the
tego, co jest do
specific
zrobienia.
case, what has to be done, etc.
Jakby
But
ta korzyść jest, tak? Bo
there are
programista doświadczony jest w
benefits.
stanie
An experienced programmer
programowanie po prostu szybciej.
can deliver code quicker.
Super, dziękuję
Thank
bardzo.
you.
A też warto dodać, że to
I'd
zależy,
like
jak
to
Sebastian
add
powiedział,
that it
bardzo
really
od tego, co
depends,
robimy. Jeżeli
as
są to
Sebastian
pewne
said,
często
on
powtarzalne i
what
które
we
są
are
bardziej
to
podobne,
produce. If we have
to użycie będzie
repetitive,
większe. Myślę, że
iterative work to
będzie
do,
przekraczać
then
50%
the
z
benefit
pewnością.
is even
A jeżeli są
greater, more
to
than 50%
albo
more
technologie, które nie
productivity.
są typowo
But
wspierane przez
there are
żadne
some technologies which are
osobne
not
technologie, więc
supported
nie
by
korzystamy.
any
Albo
models.
jest to
We
działanie
use them.
powolne i to
Or in
temperatura będzie
R&D,
50%. To
the
jest, myślę,
benefit
nie
is
można,
about
średnia
10%.
wartość, jeżeli powiemy Państwu,
So
że to
if you
jest
try to
30-40%,
average it out to
powie,
40%, it doesn't tell you much about how AI is being used in a
są rzeczy, które są
specific
prawie całkowicie
context.
zautomatyzowane.
Some things have
Jest
been
to
fully
proces
automated,
robotyczny. Są
individual
rzeczy, które mocno
testing.
można
There are
zautomatyzować,
things
na
you can
przykład tworzenie
automate,
systemu. Są rzeczy,
production
które
of
bardzo
front end,
ciężko
and there are things you cannot
automatyzować,
really
na przykład utrzymanie
automate.
bardzo
For
skomplikowanej
instance, maintenance of very complicated systems, so AI doesn't really help.
Widzimy ją w różnych
Legacy
sektorach, w różnych
systems.
branżach i w
So
różnych
we see it,
A
you
są
know,
też takie
we see
sektory, w których
different
pani
impact in different
klient
sectors and
mówi, nie możecie
technologies.
korzystać
Well, in some cases, the client
z
will
AI,
not
tak?
allow
My
us to
możemy
use
sobie
AI at
oczywiście
all.
generować kod,
We are not allowed
i możemy
to
korzystać
make
z
code with
narzędzi, nie
AI.
wiem, które w jakiś
We
sposób
cannot use
podpowiadają,
tools that
ale nie
help.
możemy automatycznie
Well,
generować kodu, tak?
we cannot generate
Taka
code
jest póki co
with AI. That's
cały
the
czas taki.
security
Więc to jest
policy of the
naprawdę, tak
company.
jak ona powiedziała, w zależności
So
od
it really
sytuacji, w
depends
jakiej
on the
się pracuje, czy w
case,
zależności od sektoru,
on the
czy sektora,
sector,
czy sytuacji
and the
klienta.
client.
Bardzo dziękuję.
Thank you very much.
Przechodząc do kolejnego
Moving on to the
pytania, pana
next
Grzegorza
area,
Stupieca.
question from
Czy
Grzegorz
Spyrosoft zamierza być
Stupeniec.
bardziej
Is
aktywny w sektorze
Spyrosoft planning to be
publicznym
more
w
active in the
Polsce?
public sector in Poland?
Ja mogę
Well,
odpowiedzieć. Na pewno,
I'll take this
jeżeli chodzi o
question.
defense, tak, i
Yes, in
tutaj drugie
defense,
pytanie, to oczywiście my startujemy w tematach
and I think there are more questions on this.
defense
We
i
are
myślę, że w
working
takich
on public
wymaganych
procurement in
tematach
defense and
właśnie
also in some
obronnych,
selected areas in Poland.
strategicznych też,
In the
tak?
public
Bym
sector,
powiedział,
yes,
mocno wybranych,
but
bo nie wszędzie.
that's very selective. We are very selective.
Natomiast mówię,
We are not going
patrzymy
all the
sobie
way
na
in.
sektor publiczny.
If you look at the
Tutaj
public
jakby
sector,
największe szanse postrzegam mimo
I
wszystko
think
poza Polską, bo też prawo
the
zamówień
greatest
publicznych w Polsce jest
opportunities
troszkę
are beyond
specyficzne.
Poland, but because the Polish public procurement
Dziękuję,
law
panie
is very
Sebastianie.
specific.
Mamy
Thank you,
teraz,
Sebastian.
przechodząc do bardziej szczegółowych pytań,
Now moving on
dwa
to
pytania
more
dotyczące
detailed
kontraktu z
questions.
BBC.
Two questions about the BBC
Jakie są
contract.
perspektywy
What
na
is the outlook for 2026, 2027?
Jakiego poziomu obrotu możemy się
What
spodziewać?
sales
Czy
level are you
wartość
expecting?
obrotu z pierwszego kwartału jest do utrzymania
Is the
przez pozostałe
Q1
dwa
revenue
oraz czy są
likely
szanse na
to
wydłużenie
continue
kontraktu
into
w
the
przyszłym
next
roku?
quarters? And what are the chances the contract will be extended next year?
Myślę, że może spodziewałbym się, że ten
Well,
kontrakt będzie stopniowo wygaszany.
I expect this contract to be phased out gradually.
Będzie ilość zamówień z niego płynąca
Number
będzie
of
zmniejszana.
orders will
2026 będzie to pewnie mniej niż w
drop.
2025.
So in 2026, we'll have fewer orders overall than in 2025, but not dramatically. Again, 2027 will have fewer orders, and then again. Now, can we get further contracts? Of course we can.
Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you.
I tak. Czy od pana Jarosława Gadomskiego
Question
mamy pytanie?
from
Czy
Jarosław
popularytet
Gadomski.
Spyrosoft Solutions
Is the improvement in the profitability of Spyrosoft
w jakim
Solutions
sensie? Myślę,
likely
że
to
tak,
continue?
tak jak państwo
Well,
wiedzą,
yes,
to
in a way,
fakt
as you
jest,
know,
nawet
because
tego nie ukrywali.
we've never been
W zeszłym
hiding
roku,
it.
zwłaszcza w drugim
In
kwartale,
the
Spyrosoft
second
Solutions
quarter of last year, Spyrosoft Solutions
miała trudności. Tutaj
was in
myślę,
some trouble as a
proszę to
company.
zrozumieć w dobrym
And please
sensie.
don't misunderstand me.
Ja też jestem bardzo szczęśliwy, że mogę
I'm very happy
współpracować z
to
moją koleżanką
work
Enią
with
Kołonianą ze Spyrosoft Solutions.
Spyrosoft
Uważam, że
Solutions
w takich
colleagues.
warunkach, w jakich funkcjonują,
Under the
to się
circumstances, they are
udało.
doing a great
Natomiast
job.
ten drugi kwartał
But the
2025
second
był dla nich
quarter
szczególny.
of 25 was really
Przepraszam
difficult
bardzo,
for
drugi
them.
kwartał
So if you look at
2026,
Q2
bo dochodzi
26
do
compared to
pierwszego
Q2
kwartału
25,
to pewnie będzie lepiej.
we'll probably see improvements.
I myślę, że do końca roku
And I think by the end of the
źle.
year, the
Natomiast też nie
situation
możemy
should
obawiać
remain
nas, branża
solid,
jednak
but
przeżywająca
this
dynamiczne zmiany.
industry
Ale
is
do końca roku
undergoing
obawiać
a
nas nie
vast sweeping change. But I'm quite optimistic until the end of the year.
Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you very
Mamy
much.
teraz
We
kolejne
have
pytanie
another
do inwestora
question
strategicznego.
from a strategic investor.
At current trading multiples, the market cap is around 10 times the expected net profit for this year, and the company has an important net cash position. Would it make sense for the strategic investor to enter at these levels, or is it considered that the investment should be made at higher multiples in order not to dilute or disadvantage existing shareholders?
Po angielsku mogę odpowiedzieć. Nie, będzie chyba lepiej. Okay, so firstly, I'm not a strategic investor, so I think it is up to any sort of strategic investor to answer this question. Well, I'm not in. Well, as a technology company, we definitely have a significant cash position, and the current plan is to use it for M&As. So that is what I can say as a person who's in charge of the company. But I'm not a strategic investor, as understood by the nature of this question. So I don't think I'm the most qualified person to answer it. You would probably need to answer you would probably need to ask a potential strategic investor.
Thank you. Jest pytanie o
And we have a
pozycję
question
długoterminowe
about the
aktywa finansowe w kwocie
item of
11,7
short-term or current
milionów
financial
złotych
assets
i
at
czy można to
11.7 million.
rozwinąć?
Could you
Tak,
elaborate on that?
jest to jedna z
Yes,
pozycji
that's
naszej
one of the
strategii
items
związanej z
under our
hedgingiem.
hedging strategy,
Nadwyżki w
the
walutach,
surplus
ponieważ
in foreign currencies that we
posiadamy
have
na koncie
in our
i
accounts,
jak gdyby oferta
and
dopłat
the offering
długoterminowych
of
jest bardzo uboga i bardzo
short-term
słaba
bank deposits is
przez to, że korzystamy
very
wielokrotnie
unsatisfactory.
z forwardów i
So we
limitu
use
forwardów. To instytucje, u których z tego
forward
korzystamy,
solutions. The
dają nam
institutions
możliwość
we
zakładania ich
work
depozytów,
with
potem
allow us to
transakcje
open
na
deposits
zdecydowanie lepszych
under such
zasadach
transactions
opłat i to
at on much better terms than typical
tych 11
deposits.
milionów to są
So
właśnie
most of that 11
walutowe.
million is that.
Dziękuję,
Thank
panie
you.
Wojciechu. Pytanie teraz o EBITDA
A question
w kolejnych
about
kwartałach.
EBITDA in the
Jakie
coming
tendencje
quarters.
w
What
marży
is the
założonej
trend
możemy się spodziewać
you're
w kolejnych
expecting in
kwartałach
EBITDA
roku?
for the next quarters of
Czy
the
To ja
sądzą
year?
mogę też
panowie?
odpowiedzieć. Ja
Well,
myślę,
let
że
me take
należy
that.
się kierować naszą strategią, gdzie tam
Look at our
pokazujemy na
strategy
slajdach i w
in the
strategii,
slides. In the
których będziemy
strategy,
się
we
poruszali w
say
przedziale
that's
11-14%
between 11 and
z
14%
delikatnymi odchyłkami
with
powyżej
a potential
14 i poniżej 11,
um,
raczej tak
out
należy
well,
myśleć. Tutaj
deviation
inwestycje
above 11
strukturowane,
or rather
będziemy też
below 11
w
and above
strategii pewnie
14%, but it's
realizacyjnej
based on our historic
będziemy się
performance,
poruszali
so
w
we're
tych
expecting to
przedziałach cały czas.
move within that range.
Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you very
Mamy też
much.
dwa
And
pytania
two
dotyczące
questions about
fuzji i przejęć.
M&As.
Jedno od pana Angela Menezesa, czy spółka w ogóle się spodziewa kolejnych trendów?
Angel Meneses is asking whether there's a chance there will be a new M&A transaction in the coming months, and Łukasz Fischer is asking whether it's easier now to acquire targets. Not in the next month. Yes, in the coming quarters. We continue to pursue our M&A policy, and that takes me to the second question. It's not any easier to buy. The valuations may be a bit lower, but still, to buy a good target that makes sense for our business at a good price, that's not any easier. Maybe they can be acquired a little bit cheaper, but not easier. Still very difficult to find a company that would be a good match for our portfolio and would contribute to our group, and we could contribute to that company. So we are not crazy about M&As right now. We are trying to be very selective. It's either great and expensive or cheap and weak. The sweet spot is hard to find. Thank you. Another question from Marek Cwanek about your expectations for the rest of the year. In Q1, the biggest revenue increase was reported in Spyrosoft Connect and Colibri. Which segments are you expecting to report the biggest revenue increase in the rest of the year? Sebastian, would you like to use your slides with the outlook? That's something we talked about before. That's where we expect revenue to grow. Yes, indeed. The biggest potential is in the financial services when it comes to the success of our initiatives. A lot has already happened. We'll be talking about it more as we meet again. And then industry, especially the chemical industry, they are doing quite well. Robotics, I think that's absolutely a forward-looking industry. Very promising. We're doing quite well as well. When it comes to e-commerce solutions, retail is doing quite well. Energy, e-mobility as well. Defense, even though the revenue is still quite low, but we think it will be changing very fast. AdTech and MarTech, that's new. We have we have our own proprietary solution, which is in the focus of our sales initiatives. That's the starting point when we approach clients, and the clients are very responsive. We have changed our approach to generating leads. We no longer only reach out to clients with a service. Instead, we reach out to clients with vibe coding. We come to clients with a ready solution, something that is already operational, that you can click through, and that works quite well. Thank you, Sebastian. We have a follow-up question on what Wojciech said. Are you expecting your Q2 and Q3 results to be good? Let me repeat what Konrad said. We are optimistic about the coming quarters. Thank you. Wojciech. Well, let me follow up. I don't think there are any reasons for our performance to be weak. Great. And another follow-up question about the short-term financial assets, current financial assets. Could they be classified as your cash? So do you have 86.5 million cash at the end of Q1? 86 includes 11 of the deposits I mentioned. The rest is cash. Thank you. Patrick is asking, reference or benchmark companies expect the revenue to grow sequentially quarter on quarter, among others, due to an increase in billable hours. Are you expecting the same? Let me consider this. Are we as I understand it, the question is, are we expecting to get more the revenue growth in a service provider with our models may be worked on, may either based on an increase of billable hours or higher prices. Most of our revenue growth this year, which I am certain will happen, will be generated by more jobs, more contracts, rather than higher prices. The average price that we can charge, consider in fixed price projects or IP licensing, that would be misleading because we have some high margin projects and some low margin projects that we want to do. We are making money and they are often a starting point for higher margin projects. But on average, I'm expecting we'll have more work to do rather than we'll be charging higher prices. I hope that answers your question.
Bardzo dziękuję.
Thank you very much.
Panie Konradzie, jest jeszcze
One
pytanie
more
od
question
o tego inwestora strategicznego.
about a strategic investor.
For Spyrosoft shareholders, would it make sense to bring in a strategic investor at such low current valuation multiples, given the dilutive effect that the transaction would have?
Okay, so I'm not sure what the dilutive effect means, but I can generally speak that if from our perspective, yes, it makes sense to bring in a strategic investor, and we've explained multiple times, but I'm very happy to reiterate. We need investment because the world keeps changing, and there are people who say, "Oh, you have a lot of money in bank." Well, I beg to differ. I think we have some money in bank, and if you think about M&As, for example, if we do just one targeted M&A, if we want to buy an AI consultancy in the US, for example, and we definitely need a company like that, that would probably exhaust all the funds that we have at the moment. So we need money for M&As, we need money to invest in the future, we need money to invest in IP. And if a strategic investor is a good one, then I don't think there is a bad moment to bring in such an institution or person. But please allow me to think about the company in a more, I would say, business terms than purely financial terms. My goal is long term. But I appreciate the fact that there are investors who think about it, about multiples and so on here and now, which is fair enough, but I'm thinking about the future of the company and what we can do in 5-10 years from now.
Panie Konradzie, bardzo
Thank you very
dziękuję.
much.
Widzę, że wpadło nam jeszcze ostatnie
One
pytanie
last
za dzisiaj.
question.
Czy ewentualna transakcja
A
inwestora
potential
strategicznego będzie
strategic
zawarta ze
investor,
znaczną premium
would that
nadchodzącej wyceny
happen
rynkowej
at a big premium
Takie były
on
oczekiwania głównych
your
akcjonariuszy.
current valuation? Would that be the expectation of your current shareholders?
Wojtku, chciałeś odpowiedzieć?
Wojtek, would you like to take
No,
this question?
Znaczy,
Well,
pytanie jest,
the question
czy
is
my jako
whether
akcjonariusze
we as
oczekujemy
shareholders
premii
expect a
do
premium.
też
We're also
akcjonariusze
shareholders of the company.
No, ja nie wiem, czy my na takie pytanie możemy
Well, I don't know if we
odpowiedzieć.
can answer this
Czy ono
question,
ma, czy ona ma jak gdyby, czy ona ma sens
whether
na
it
tym
makes sense
etapie.
at this
Tutaj
point in time
rozmawiamy o wynikach z pierwszego
when we talk about
kwartału,
Q1 results.
a na takie pytanie, jak gdyby, no nie ma żadnej takiej informacji, gdzie można by na takie pytanie udzielić sensownej odpowiedzi.
I don't think I can answer this question in any sensible way.
Jeszcze, panie Wojciechu, jak mam pana na wizji, dlaczego zmiana
Why
stanu należności była tak negatywna?
Did
w
your
kwartale?
receivables change adversely
Zmiana
last quarter?
należności,
Change in
ja rozumiem
receivables?
w taki sposób, że
Well, my
część
understanding is that,
należności zamieniła
well,
się w
some
gotówkę,
receivables were
odwrotnie
transformed
trochę z
into cash,
należnościami
the rest are
i
receivables, and
to nam działa w dwie
it works
strony,
both ways. So,
więc czy ta zmiana była taka
was this
negatywna,
an
to trzeba byłoby
adverse
z
change?
gotówką
We have
porównać.
to look at
Ja
it
nie
in
widzę tutaj
combination with cash.
żadnych ze strony finansowej
From the
żadnych
financial perspective, I don't think there's any big impact
w tej części należności gotówkowej, więc bo ja tak
when
patrzę
it
na
comes to receivables and cash, because you have to take them
Chciałem
together.
przypomnieć, że w 2020,
In
jeśli dobrze kojarzę, taki efekt był tak
2021,
samo,
we
że
had the
jeśli
same
chodzi o
impact. We
cash
had
i
more
należności,
cash and less
to działa w dwie
receivables, so
strony.
it
Należy
works
to patrzeć
both
w dwie
ways. You
strony.
have to look at both
To też jeszcze chciałbym
sides
się
of the
odnieść do
coin.
tych pytań
If I
zarówno
may
polskiej,
go
angielskiej,
back to the questions in
odnośnie
Polish and in
potencjalnych
English about
inwestorów
potential
strategicznych.
strategic investors,
To jest tak, że no, mogę powiedzieć ze swojego punktu
From
widzenia.
my
Wiążę
perspective,
swoją przyszłość z tą spółką.
I
I
see my
w
future
moim
in this
skromnym
company.
mniemaniu
So,
kwestia nie polega
in
na
my
tym, żeby
mind,
sprzedać udziały i sobie gdzieś pójść,
it's not about
tylko
selling
chodzi o to, żeby
the
pozyskać
stock
partnera do dalszego
and going
rozwoju
away.
firmy.
It's
To
about
jest
building a
pomysł, którego
portfolio to
prezentuję
grow the
i
company.
wtedy
That's
walczę,
my
którego się
approach.
będę trzymał.
And that's something I
Dlatego
will
proszę mi
stick
pozwolić
to.
patrzeć na to w ten
So that's
sposób.
my
Na pewno moim
perspective.
celem nie jest
I'm not
sprzedanie
here to
firmy i
sell the
zrobienie
company
czegoś innego.
and do something else or
Nie jest to
nothing.
mój cel.
It's my,
Nie chcę tego,
it's not
nie
my
będę
objective. It's
próbował
not my
w przyszłości.
plan. It's not how I approach the future of this company.
Pomaga
Thank you.
odpowiedzi na to pytanie. I widzę jeszcze jedno pytanie.
There's
Czy
one more
otrzymaliśmy
question.
niebieską i czarną
Did you
licencję
receive
od
the
OpenAI?
silver,
Słyszałem,
black,
że
blue
dostaliśmy
token
już
from
token od
OpenAI? Did we
Myślę,
get a
że nie
token?
otrzymaliśmy, bo
No.
żeby otrzymać
To get a
najwyższy
token
silver,
at the
dlatego
lowest
że
level,
to,
silver,
zdaje się 10 miliardów
you
tokens
need
przetworzyć,
to
a
process
u
10
nas
billion
sytuacja jest
tokens.
chyba
By the end of
taka, że
May
do
26,
końca
we
maja tego
needed to
roku
be
trzeba będzie
eligible, and our
zweryfikować
use of
pozycję
OpenAI
OpenAI z
dropped in
Malawi,
favor
z
of
Antropikiem.
Anthropic.
Także
So
zdaje się, że
OpenAI has
to trochę
raised
zwiększył
the
te
bar
wymagania,
by
więc
10
chyba
times, I
jeszcze
think. So no, we haven't received any tokens.
Niestety
And the
drops
diamond
daleko
token
nie
is,
wyszły.
well,
nie.
way on the horizon. Thank you very much.
Bardzo
And
panu
so
dziękuję. I
let
w takim
me
razie
close this session.
zakończyliśmy to
If you have
spotkanie.
any
Jeżeli
follow-up
państwo chcą
questions,
jeszcze jakieś
please
dodatkowe pytania,
contact
to oczywiście
us
zachęcamy
directly
do
by
kontaktu
email.
z nami.
Thank you very much for being here. Thank
Dziękujemy
you for
państwu
your time.
za państwa czas.
Thank you, and come back
Dziękujemy
next
serdecznie,
quarter.
zapraszamy na
Thank
następną
you.
konferencję.
Goodbye.